Yeah. I know you got problems, know you at the bottom, know you took a loss today. Everybody want bottles, living for a throttle, you just want bottle today. Tell me joy, where it's hiding, I've been trying to find it before I go all the way. Cause everybody got problems, everybody starving, but don't you go off today.
What up, what up, what up? Beautiful Sunday morning. This is the All Done Podcast. My name is Tracy. That's my boy Mike. How you feeling today, Mike?
And I'm good, my brother. How you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Got my prosperity merch on. You know, you can find this link in the bio. Don't forget to check us out on Amazon as well. Shameless plugs. But I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there. What are we going to be talking about today?
Man, today we're going to get a little deeper. Talk about something that's really important. Let's talk about, we're going to talk about life insurance. You feel me? A plan for your family after you go on. So when I first brought it up, the way Tracy said it was, so we talking about death. And that's really not the vibes with it. I mean, it is, but it's not. So, you know, that's where we at this morning. And we're going to start off with the question of how important is life insurance, and especially within our community.
For sure. I think that's you're right. I think for me, life insurance and death are synonymous, but maybe they don't have to be. And maybe it is a conversation that we do have to have with individuals that are not in maybe a death age. But I think the earlier you start thinking about this, definitely the better. So I would say, yeah, right. Life insurance is important. I think that part is obvious. I think a lot of the times, and I'll speak from my experience with my mom's, it was like, she had life insurance, but then you have to deal with companies, right? So here's my beef with life insurance is that you're putting a very touchy subject in the hands of people geared towards making money, right? These life insurance corporations are businesses. These are, right, money-making entities. These people aren't out here just doing it because, oh my God, you have to bury your family, right? Because you just recently went through something like that as well. And I think when people talk about it, they be like, oh, no, it's $30 a month or it's cheap and it should be just one of those things that you have like in your budget. But for me, I think for some people, it's really not that simple, right? Because as we've talked about here on the All Done Podcast many times, some people don't have an extra 40 or 30 just to put on a what if, right? Because, I mean, death is inevitable, but you don't know when. So what I find is a lot of people kind of put it off.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's absolutely the truth. And like I said, for us, so much it's people. Another thing, people don't want to talk about it. Like you said, it's touchy, and you know, they may not have that $30-$40 a month. They may not have a job that provides life insurance, but a lot of people just don't want to talk about it. Don't want to touch on it. They don't want to cope with the fact that eventually they're going to go. You know, one day.
Absolutely.
You know, one of my favorite quotes recently was, you know, don't take life too serious. Nobody makes it out alive. And, you know, that's just it's a funny quote, but it's real. And I think as a whole, we need to do a better job of insuring ourselves. Like you said, I went through it recently, and I had 2 deaths in my family this year where it was 2 opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
One, which was my aunt, she had everything laid out. This is going here, this is going there, this is going there, this is what's going to happen.
And for context, how old was she?
My aunt was in her 70s. I want to say she was around 79, 75, something like that.
So my argument, one of them would be that it's more plausible for a 70-plus-year-old individual to start figuring that out.
Absolutely.
Right? You're retired, hopefully doing okay. That you should set those plans in motion in some cases. But go ahead, the other one.
Facts. The other one was my big mama. My big mama, nothing was in order. Luckily, I had a cousin who was on point with everything, but nothing was like, it's so many questions. And there's still questions, you know, it's been about a month or 2 now. And there's still questions about what's going to happen with this, what's going to happen with that. Like I said, I have a cousin who's done an outstanding job. And and that's how that's going. So it's a conversation. It's uncomfortable, but you got to start to have it. I talked to my dad about it. Like, you know, he's fought lung cancer. He's doing well right now. But, you know, it makes you think like nobody's forever.
No, that's true. I think the point I want to go to is the structure, right? Like people, and touching back on what I said earlier is, should you have to pay that $30 or $40, right? So like, for instance, when my mom passed a year or so ago, that bill was somewhere close to $10,000 to like get her buried. So, and you know, the situation goes, and I'll share this with our All Done Podcast listeners, the faithful. It wasn't the life insurance she had been paying into for a certain amount of time for X amount of dollars that would have definitely covered the cost of the funeral that she wanted. She maybe came up a few weeks short of the time period, because that's the other thing. I can't, in most cases, just go get life insurance today and then have them cover me on a $12,000, $15,000 policy tomorrow, right? So there's a certain amount there's a grace period in my case, in my mother's case, that she had to pay a certain amount of time. So she passed before she could get to that point where they would cover the larger amount that she needed. She didn't get there, and so they sent us, I think it was a quarter of what she had paid into the policy. And then we kind of, me, my brother, and my sister just kind of had to figure it out. So I say all that to say, is life insurance a scary conversation because it brings up so many bugaboos and taboos of society, right? One being, yo, I don't have the 30 or 40. Two being, damn, it's death. That's fucked up. Three being, I have to put things in order. And like most of us in life, like life is fluid, it's hard, right? So most of us don't even, I can barely get my day-to-day together. Now you want me to start thinking about
when I'm gone?
When I'm gone, like, my point is, and I would, again, I'm always putting it on big corporations and the big entities rather than the individual. Yes, the individual, we as individuals can do more and we should do more, but the corporations, the people that are getting the funding, the people that you're paying money into every month, could they do a better job? And I think no one ever asked that question.
That's a fact. They can do a better job. I believe, honestly, we shouldn't be put in a position where we can't afford to bury a loved one anyway.
And that's a very real thing.
And that's like the average right now, they can't afford it. And like I said, as we saying, death is real. 2020 will let you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming and it's just happening randomly. So like you mentioned earlier, like the age getting close to death, clearly now there's no age.
No.
Like, let's talk about somebody like Kobe Bryant. I'm pretty sure they weren't worried about a life insurance policy.
No.
I mean, they of course they had to have stuff in place so we know what to do. And that's where we should be. Like, we're supposed to be the strongest, richest country on the planet. We're here, and so we shouldn't have to. Our concern shouldn't be, well, how am I gonna pay for him to put him in the ground? Well, I can't really afford that. Maybe we just have to cremate, whatever the case is, and it's tough. So. But yet and still, as we've been doing, we have to do what we have to do to keep going. So that's like I keep saying this. I've said this already. That's a conversation that has to be had.
I feel like I can't. I'm tired in all aspects, not even just this one, but I'm tired in all aspects of it just being like on the people. Oh, we have to do what we have to do. Oh,
yeah, the uncertainty.
We gotta do. Oh, well, life insurance, you gotta do what you got. At some point, and I had a great conversation with a mentor of mine, and we were just talking about some of the frustrations that I feel with our society. And we were talking for maybe 5 minutes, and she kind of picked up, and she was like, well, what are we going to do about all the things that we're talking about, politics and society and middle-class individuals struggling to find the next meal, so on and so forth. And she said it very plainly. She was like, so what are you advocating, revolution? And I was like, whoa.
Hey now.
This is a mentor.
I said nothing about revolution.
She's a white woman, and so like, okay, you could say that. I will never say revolution because that's just not what I'm on. I'm not
gonna call it change.
Yeah. I mean, let's call it what we want. I won't say the R word. What I will say is that you can only put people in a position so many times or put their back against the wall so many times before they decide, I have no choice.
Right.
Like, you've put me in a position where I have no choice. And so I would say regarding this topic, if you force someone to not have the means to bury their loved one, I would say you're going to put them in a very difficult space mentally.
Absolutely.
And so at some point, someone's got to do something, and it can't just be the individual to individual. There are all these structures and entities and political situations and systems that are supposed to protect the people. And this, in my opinion, is another area in which they fall short.
Absolutely. No, I agree wholeheartedly. And so without using the R word, there has to be change. There has to be a shift in dynamic. It has to be so many more things. So like we have enough to worry about every day. I shouldn't have to worry about dying. And what I mean by that, I shouldn't have to worry about, well, how am I, what's going to happen with my kids when I'm gone? What's going to happen with my family when I'm gone? Can they afford to bury me? We got to be in a position where we don't have to worry about that. And so without using the R word, there definitely has to be a shift in dynamic with that.
Absolutely.
But like I said, let's getting back to the original topic. Don't be afraid to plan though. So even if we get to a point where we don't have to worry about it, still prepare your family for your departure. And I don't have any children, but you have a son, and I know it's heavy on your mind to think like, well, what's gonna happen with my son when I'm gone? So we have to so beyond life insurance now, we just have to have stuff like that in place. Period. Like, will my family have somewhere to stay when I'm gone? What, you know what I mean? So like I said, and we don't do that enough. And that's like we talk, death is it's a touchy subject.
So why do you feel, so say I don't plan it. And this is, again, I pointed to the insurance companies. I got to point to your employer. If I am an individual, and I think a lot of this stuff should have limits on it. So no, I don't believe that you should walk into a job and get max amount of benefits day 2, right? But if I've been at a place for 5+, 6+, 7+, 8+ years, at what point is that employer's responsibility to have an adaptation to like my family and my stresses, right? Is it the employer's responsibility? Because not all employers do that. I've worked all over the place. Some employers give you literally the bare minimum. Is it the employer's responsibility to say, listen, you've been working here for 5 years, we're going to put in $30, or we'll put in and you match us, right? Is it on them to come up with some sort of strategy to make sure that the employees are okay?
I think that,
life insurance.
I think that goes back to a conversation we had previously about when we make it. Is it owed? Is it an obligation to me?
No. That's
no. I'm asking. So do you feel like that the employee owes that to their employers?
I would say yes, and the reason is because what we were talking about is the individual.
We were.
Do I owe you? Do I owe my brother over there around the corner? And I'm still gonna say yes for that too. Well, obviously we have a difference of opinion.
Well, yeah,
this is a different dynamic.
I think we say that because it's more personal. It's personal to. So
exactly.
Now,
this is not business, a personal. This is business relationship.
So now, as a business, do they owe us that?
I think they do.
Or do
even
they just
more.
owe us our check at the end of each week?
And I mean, and we can get into that too. That's a podcast for a different later. A check at the end of each week, which a lot of these corporations are getting away from, and it's bi-monthly, and we'll talk about that at a later date. Yeah, but yes, to answer your question very directly, if you're an employer and I think we're talking about life insurance and the value of life. Your employer doesn't put enough value in your life if they're not willing to say, listen, you've been loyal to us. You've given us your life. I think from an employer standpoint, that attitude has to change. If I give you my time, right, what am I worth? Right? Am I just worth the 17, 18, or well, no, what is minimum wage in New York right now? 11.25? Is that all I should get from you? Right? Is that our business exchange? I do this service and then you pay me 11.25 and then we're square?
I think businesses, you're worth what you make for them. And I've seen it personally. And so I have a full-time job, part-time job as well. I've seen it personally at my job where someone collapsed. I want to say he was having a seizure or something like that. And they stopped for a second They literally picked him up and sat him to the side. I mean, they didn't just throw him like a rag, but they sat him to the side.
Might
And
as
let's
well.
crank this thing back up. Like, what are we waiting for? Let's crank, because there's a certain amount of money that goes to each minute that we're not producing.
I can't, and that's you cannot. I'm trying to tie this in because you can't have one conversation without the other.
That's
you
right.
can't say that life insurance and having individuals prepared for death is important, but then your system that those individuals are living in don't support that. That's not a thing, right? Because like you just mentioned, they pick your man up and move him to the side. Got to get the line moving.
we gotta start rolling. Yeah.
So how do I look at that same individual and say, hey, make sure you got your life insurance? Your company showed they don't give a damn about you.
Yeah. And like you hate this point, but I'm gonna make this point.
Yeah, go ahead.
At some point, as pros, we realize we got to take things in our own hands. So that has to be in my hands.
That's why
they don't.
Right.
MJ says it the best. They don't really care about us. Let's just be frank. They don't care about us. We are a dollar sign. Every time I clock in and out, I'm a dollar sign. Like because if I clock in 3 minutes late or 2 minutes early, there's an issue with that. Yeah. Exactly. So let's just be real. Like as employees, we're dollar sign. So that's why I wanted to speak on that, because it's like, don't expect everybody else to do it. You feel me? And that's just my whole driving point. Like,
I understand that. I get
I mean, we get it, but we need to harp on like how important it is. Like some people, like we're fairly young, so in our minds, like, we'll be around. We got time to get to it.
Sure.
But I think once you start having kids and and people that's depending on you,
sure,
it's an obligation to make sure like we don't really agree with corporations, or we don't really like agree with how they function, but we still have to use them to get what we need. You feel me?
All right, so be clear. I don't want to make it seem like I'm against the individuals taking care of the individuals. That is important. If you don't have some form of life insurance, mother, father, or something, you should definitely try to do that. For me personally, and I'll speak for you on this one, this is something that doesn't bother us because our sense of humor, we're fucked up people. So it's like, I don't mind. Death to me is not like this messed up thing. Like, oh man, if a loved one passes, I'm gonna be sad, and it's a very tough situation. But for us, it's
natural. We understand it's a natural part of everything lives, everything dies,
and everyone doesn't get that. So imagine dealing with the stress of really an individual that takes death really hard, and then an insurance company coming to you and say, well, they didn't pay in enough, or funeral home saying,
I was just about to say, we gotta get off the funeral homes. They will look you dead in the face, straight face. Well, how you gonna pay for this?
Exactly.
Because that's their business, though. Like I've been, like I said, I've been to a few funerals this year. Wait. What was you knowing?
My point is that the whole your first statement, right? They look us in our faces and are like, "How you gonna pay for this?" Which is true, but that's for me. That's where the conversation stops, and we need to have a different conversation. We're no longer talking about.
Wait. Now here's the question: with whom? Like the funeral home? We need to have a conversation with?
Absolutely, and with our federal government, it's appalling to me that when an Enron go down the list of these corporations that have need to be bailed out since we've been alive, right? Bernie Madoff, Ponzi schemes, and the corruption that is business, and our federal government kind of lets that stuff go unchecked. But then soon as a family really needs assistance, I don't know of any programs that are really out there on a federal level to say, yeah, we're going to take care of that. Or here's the grant. Here's the grant for this. They're glad to give you $10,000 to go to school and get in debt.
Yeah.
But there's no chip in on the federal level to help people pay for their loved ones when they pass. To me, that seems weird, and it's beyond business. I love business. I think Oprah, and I don't really fuck with Oprah 100%, but she's cool. She's given me some gems over the years. She talks about compassionate capitalism. And I think that's the way business should be moved. It shouldn't be moved, oh, you're poor. Your entire family's been poor from this individuals who's passed their entire lives. But you know what? You owe us $12,000 to put them in the ground.
Really? So
Well,
you
we
don't.
work at Piggly Wiggly. Like, what you want us to do? The
So now
system hasn't been set up for us to do
So
this.
what happens to this business? Because let's be honest, a lot of funeral homes are family-owned businesses. Let's just be
Sure.
real. So what happens to this family-owned business if they keep saying, "Well, we'll worry about it later"?
Again,
At what point?
Yeah, go ahead.
At what point do you're saying the government should take care of them too?
That's exactly where I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Like, bro, I don't understand how this is even. To me, it's like this is so simple stuff, but we make it like, oh no, like whatever.
So now here's my question to you with that.
Go ahead.
What makes that different from a business standpoint? So we're not talking about, because we know on a personal and emotional level what's different, but what makes that business different, that small business, funeral home,
Sure.
than somebody owning a restaurant that's just not selling food?
I mean, for me, that's an obvious.
I'm talking about from a business level. No, not like we get death is real.
You just said the difference. The difference is the personal and emotional. The restaurant, the food is dope, but it's my mother. She just died.
That's facts. But that's there on a personal level. We talk on a business level because we say this all the time. Listen. We say this all the time. We don't do feelings. When it comes to money, it's not about feelings.
Facts.
So somebody looking at those two businesses, whether it's Mike's Wingstop or Mike's Wing Shack, and Mike's funeral home, from the business, they're both just businesses that may not be doing well for whatever reason. Mike's funeral home might not be doing well because I keep saying, well, I know your family can afford this, so we're gonna do it, and you pay me when you can. Well, now my business is failing.
I'm not sure I agree with that either, but go ahead. The business is failing. My
business is failing. So at what point, like, how do you separate that? Like, do the government save the restaurant and the funeral home? Do they just save the funeral home because it's essential? Like, what happens there?
Sure. No, that's a brilliant segue from or next jumping off point to the conversation. And I would say that first, the restaurant business is business. So when I'm selling a book or when we're selling prosperity merch, that's business, right? That's not.
What a plug!
There's no emotion that should be. There's no emotion that should be attached to that. Either I can figure out a marketing strategy to sell people and get them to go to Amazon right now and cop that prosperity for all, or I can't do that. A business owner in that realm shouldn't be asking, why would you act like that's American business? I think that's the part of a free market system that pros and people that about that hustle can get behind. I can get behind that. Not all the way, because there are some obstacles, some crooks, and there's some corruption there. But for the most part, cool. Free market system, I print the t-shirt, sell the t-shirt, make a profit, no problem. In the realm of life insurance, we're no longer talking about just business.
Products. We're not talking about
it's not goods and services. That's my father. Like, this is not, and we can't, I think in certain business, we can't look at it the same. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think America understands that, and our system understands that, because you look at hospitals and some of the breaks and some of the tax situations that they find themselves in, or certain nonprofit organizations that don't have to pay certain taxes
for some things. But I ain't gonna hold you. They really don't care. Like, let's just be real. But like, what could you say? Like, there's like, I just got a letter from a hospital. Like, yo, we taking you to court. Because I got sick. I didn't do that on purpose. Like, I didn't. But we suing you for what you owe. I mean, y'all still not gonna get it. But
so this
go for what you know.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. So certain fields deserve the compassion when it comes to business.
Absolutely, and that is not. I'm not talking about some mythical creature. I'm talking about the federal government, who, right? We all just voted, and people were celebrating the streets. Mm-hmm. Shucking and jiving, massive Biden's in there. Thank God. I appreciate Joe Biden. Is Joe Biden going to fix those issues for the American people? Politicians work for us, and I think that's the attitude that we as the people need to definitely start taking.
I don't know about the issue of death, but he's talking about canceling student loans, and I'm with him on that.
I mean, we've been hearing a lot of things. I've been hearing 10,000. I've been hearing a lot of things, man.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I just, you mentioned Joe Biden and what he's going to do. But
I'm just saying, but it is his job. But go ahead. It's his job.
That's his job. But another thing, wills. Do you feel lawyers should be charging $3,000 plus, $2,000 plus to write a will?
No. Like this, again, this is another piece where I respect capitalism and the free market system, but there are instances where we take it too far.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have anything, right? I had a friend, he worked at, and this was a long time ago. He worked at, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say the business, but he worked at a local business in our neighborhood. And he worked there for at least 10 years. And he was loyal, he was always on time, and he's trying to climb their corporate ladder, and he did everything that he possibly could. And long story short, he lost a loved one. And it was that type of situation where they were nickeling and diming this individual at every turn. Gotta charge you fee for the will, fee for this, fee for that, fee for the consultation. Right at this funeral home I'm talking about, charge this man at every turn. Fee for the flowers, free for the flower pot. Like it was insane to the point where my man, like, he had like a nervous breakdown that put him in a real bad space. Mm-hmm. And so your question is it okay for a lawyer to charge $3,000 for that? Can't even be a question in 2020.
My question wasn't, is it okay? My question was, how do you think they should? That might have been my question, but I'm
gonna answer it regardless. Whether
you got
or not.
You gotta answer it regardless. No,
the answer is no, and I don't.
It's crazy because the form is so generic. Like all they do is print out a paper and just write this, write that, write that. Okay, your will's done. I'm iffy on that. There's a toss up on that.
Because please point the toss.
Well, here's my toss up, because like I said, me and you, we talk on a regular basis. We talk more than just a podcast or a vlog or whatever. We chop it up about any and everything. So the toss up on that to me is our conversation be so business oriented. Sometimes we think, well, we got to turn down the other stuff and turn up the business part of it. Sure. So I'm charged with. If I'm a lawyer, what I'm charging towards my experience to get this done, with little to no stress to you. And so, like I said, if I have
that's an interesting little to no stress to you, which is, again, I don't know if it's little to no stress. I don't know if you've alleviated me of real. Right? Like I would say you've compounded my problem. My problem is I'm emotionally distraught because I just lost someone I love, and now you just hit me with a $3,000 bill. And so I wouldn't say
wait. When we talk about the will, the $3,000 bill is before that. So the one that's dying is paying the bill technically. So that, so like
and if that person has nothing.
That person has nothing. What's the will for then? That sounded bad.
It does. It's how you sound.
If you have nothing, what we need a will for at this point?
That's my point. I am not on the All Done podcast to assist individuals that are okay. Like, people love the shame, money, and you don't need it to be happy. Yeah, try living without it then.
That's facts.
You can say that, those individuals who say that, because you're in a place where it's okay. I'm saying I will never forget the times I didn't have a dime. And then to deal with, it almost pisses me off to hear individuals that have the means to say, oh, money's evil, or money don't mean this, or money don't mean that. Yeah, it's easy to say when you have it.
You never starved. You feel me?
Or even if you did, that's our problem too. People get elevated and then they talk down to those individuals as if they never came from that position.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Yeah, you can bet you don't have a problem saying, here's 10,000, take it.
So we getting back to what you were saying before. Somebody owe it.
Listen.
We're getting back to what you were saying before. Somebody owe it somewhere.
I'm always gonna, and I will continue to put that onus on, because we are in a system that is supposed to hold leadership and elected officials to a higher standard. And not only have we gotten away from that, I'm not sure if we've done it in decades. Who's holding the insurance? Who says it's okay for my mother to pay 2 years into a policy and not reap the benefits of that? And that be good business, though. She signed a contract. She didn't reach her 2-year whatever. So we're not going to pay out the full amount.
Yeah, I know.
Who says, and who regulates it? Because I would say no one does. We
it
chalk
really
it up
goes
as
unchecked.
business.
It goes unchecked, but I think mainly because it's just an uncomfortable conversation. So we don't want to say, hey, when I die, y'all gonna pay for my stuff? We don't want to ask that. Like, we just, I'm paying for it. I hope they pay for it.
So wait a minute.
What they're supposed
why?
To do.
Let's get into the why, right? Because I think that's an important part of the podcast. Why do people not want to talk about death? I mean, yes, you have the obvious, right? Oh, damn, it's death. That's fucked up. But why? Why? Give me a reason to you.
I mean, that's
especially in our community.
Fear of the unknown. That's one thing. And it's just it's a downer. We have so much other stuff we're fighting, worried about. We can't worry about dying. I gotta worry.
Oh Lord, that's a gem right there. That's a gem. We're Flex. We're from New York. Flex.
Wait, I got. But no,
badass.
But no, for real, I'm so worried about like, well, how I'm gonna eat tomorrow? How I'm gonna pay this bill? How I'm gonna pay that bill? I can't worry about dying. Like, it's almost we're to the point, not we make, but we're to the point where it's like, yo, dying's not an option.
Dead ass. I can't afford
dying's not an option. I can't afford to die
right now. Yeah.
And my family can't afford for me to die right now.
That ass. And obviously we know that's not the way death works, right? So yeah, you might feel that way, and you might be grinding your face off to try to figure it out, but death is, it's sudden.
It could be random.
It can happen right now. So it is a situation where I don't know how you tell people to say, oh man, you have to put that 40, you're 25, 10, whatever. And then you know what? If it's only the minimum you can get, I'm going to make you give me that minimum for 2-3 years before I actually enact a real policy that can protect you if a loved one passes. It's an ugly game that's messed up. I want to answer the question I asked you, which was, why do I feel like people don't have life insurance? And I want to gear this really towards our community. I think in our community, we don't have that conversation or talk about that is because, us, we going to be better in the by and by. Jesus coming and better in the by and by. And
I knew that's where you was going with that.
Older black folks don't have we are religious. God's going to pay. God's going to pay for it.
Jesus already paid for that Calvary.
I got my church family at the Baptist Tabernacle, and I don't want to poke fun, and I don't want to make fun because all of my elders are of that cloth, all of them. But I have to say
over that point again, you froze for a second, bro.
I froze for a second?
Yeah, you froze for a second.
So I would say, again, it's not why people in our community don't want to have this conversation, because we're going to be protected by the by and by, right? Jesus is coming, and when he comes, it ain't going to be no more pain. Exactly.
I'll fly away.
My point. So that's in our community. That is a, and I don't know
what? That's borderline selfish. When you think about it, like I said, like the song.
Oh shit.
One glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away. Yeah, you flying away, but I'm still here paying your bills.
Yeah, but why though? Why? We still have that thing. The religion in the black community came from initially, I would say, came from looking for strength during Jim Crow and sharecropping, right?
I think it got stronger. I think religion's been around, but I think it got stronger.
Yeah,
like we need something to hold. We need something to hold on to.
Exactly, because when you go outside, you could be attacked by dogs, sprayed by hose, right? Like, and then obviously the other side of it was a place that black people could congregate and strategize to try to move the culture forward at one point as well. So I think there were a lot of pros to it, but I think in this day and age, it is a hindrance in the topics that we're talking about now, because an elderly black person that is struggling. And again, I just said all the things I said about who's obligated to help individuals struggling, but black people in struggling, it's like, man, religion. I go to church. I pay my tithes.
I agree with that. I say this a lot. We got to start holding the church accountable too.
Oh boy, that's a pie. Don't even get into. That's a whole podcast.
People, yeah, it is. People,
that's a whole podcast.
People ask me, it's so funny. Like, I don't know, a lot of people not gonna like me for this, but people ask me all the time, like, well, Mike, why don't you go to church? I said, because I don't want to pay the cover charge. They said, what's the cover charge? I said, it's 10%. I said, the bar never charges me 10% of what I'm about to, of my earnings. Never mind.
That's jumping out the window.
Yeah, you right. Never mind. Let me get back. Let me get back
to the window like that.
That. And like I said, I'm not, so declare it up. I'm not anti-God.
No.
I'm not anti spirituality.
Not at all.
But we got to understand the church is a business.
And that is
the church is a business. A lot of people don't want to look at it that way, but the church is the business. Well, and even if you don't want to look at they trying to make money, well, they not even with that, they still got to pay their light bill, their water bill, stuff like that. It's still a business. So they get a tax exempt number, all that. They're a business.
Yeah. So but that's my point. I don't understand. Religion, church, spirituality shouldn't be a business. There are certain things that if it's going to be a business or it's going to operate in the realm of business, it needs to be protected in a different type of way.
Why isn't God free?
Go ahead. I don't have an answer.
that awkward silence, why isn't God free?
I don't have an answer. The same reason putting a person on the ground is not free.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then let's say our loved one do leave and I decide to dig a hole in my backyard. Now I'm being charged with a whole different crime.
Yeah, those are felonies. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'll have to re-examine the law. I'm pretty sure you can't do that either.
Yeah.
So we want people to participate in this. Again, this is an overarching thing of the All Done podcast from my standpoint, is we want people to participate in a system that does not take care of them. And to ask a person to do that is insane. You cannot do it. You can't say, I'm going to give you a job at McDowell's, not McDonald's, so stay off my shit with the suing, right? McDowell's. You can't.
You have to clip that one out.
You can't go with the McDowell's and I pay you $11 and then I'm mad because you don't have the means to bury yourself. That doesn't, right? That is conflicting to me. And I don't understand how we're still here in 2020. And then your elite will come to you and be like, well, you got to figure it out. Hustle harder. Grind harder. Nigga, what? It doesn't compute, bro. It doesn't compute. And I'm sorry. Yes, I believe in individual accountability. But in this topic, for burying your loved ones in the darkest time of your life, no, I'll never forget sitting in the room my mother lived in and looking at her television and looking at like her stuff and touching her clothes and like thinking like, yo, this woman, you'll never convince me that poverty didn't aid in the death of my mother at 52. You'll never convince me of that because you couldn't tell me that if she was able to build a legit life for her in a legit system that rewarded her for her hard work, those are the people I'm trying to reach and I want to talk to on the All Done podcast is the individuals that I bust my ass every day. My mom wasn't a hard-working issue. You knew her. Mm-hmm. Late night, overnight, nursing homes, whatever we had to do.
Grinder, just hustle.
But it never panned out, and that's a problem. And then her kids had to just figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so my energy doesn't come from a place of, oh, you didn't do enough. I watch this woman. I watch her every day. I promise you, she did enough. I promise you she did enough. But for her kids to have to like, and maybe it didn't affect me in a certain way, but I know it hit my brother and my sister hard, and I know it still affects them to this day. Yeah. So for me, we really have to focus on creating a way for the grinders. And that's what this podcast is about is, the grinders need help.
Yeah, and that's where it comes back to what you were saying earlier. There is an obligation to help.
From who?
From the elites, the people that made it. No, I agree. Okay. Like I said, sometimes we just chat to, but no, I get what you're saying when it comes to that. So is it Now, here's a question, not talking about the elites. How would you say that split? Is it 50-50 on the individual and corporation? Should it be 75-25? Like, how do you...
In regards to what? So, like, if I'm an employee and I've given you my life?
Mm-hmm. Should it be 100% on the employer?
100 is a tough number because I think businesses do have to protect themselves from the fucked up human element, right? Sometimes humans can be wretched creatures, right?
Just do dumb shit. Let's just...
I'm not trying to, and I think we've guarded against the fucked up individuals so much that we are hindering those who are good and really need the help.
Right.
Right. And that's what I don't, it's a very fine line and I don't want to do that. Right. Mm-hmm. So in order to not do that, I'm going to go 90-10 for that individual employee or employee that's worked at a place. And I'll put a number on it, 5 years. If I've given you 5 years of my life and I have real tragedy, yo, man, you got to help. You have to help me. We have to be building or starting some sort of fund to help me when I get to that point.
Should be some type of big pot for it. Because, I mean, we do it on an individual level. No, because we do it on an individual level when someone loses someone at their job, a card comes up, goes around.
Yeah, and where does that come from? Where does that come from?
That's why I said the individual level.
That's the people, right? That's the individuals in your bullpen, your circle. Yeah, right? That's us coming together doing what we can.
So ain't no way a business can't do that.
I mean, obviously there is a way because they've been doing it.
There is a way, but I think that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be that way. Like, we can do that. We can bury your mom, and of course there'll be limits to it. So I wouldn't expect anyone's job or business to bury their second cousin twice removed or anything like that. When it comes to my mom, my wife, my dad.
But those points are the points that those people use to get out of it. So what if it's this cousin's sister? Like, please, all Done listeners, here we don't talk about the obvious because we feel it's obvious, right? Like, so no, your employer shouldn't pay for your baby son's uncle's cat to be buried. Like, that's, no one cares, right? Like, obvi. But real situations, yeah, man, you owe that. And I knew in the realm, and I want to say this as well, and then I'll throw it back to you. In the realm of business, I worked at a place where I made $13. Yeah, I say $13. And a few months after leaving, I found out that the managers at this place get a bonus of $8,000 to $10,000 in the holiday season. And so I was like, that doesn't seem crazy to anyone. I make $13 an hour. I eat a lot of ramen. Fuck with us, because we could be your first real.
You feel me? Nobody really be plugging ramen like that.
You know what I'm saying? But it's the lifeblood of the poor. So I appreciate y'all. Like, but my point
that's another conversation because that keeps other stuff going. Because ramen, then high blood pressure, then medication.
Come on,
but that's another conversation.
We can get into it.
We can get into it, but continue, my brother.
So I was making this $13, and a couple months after I left, I found out that certain managers were getting like real bonuses. Like, yo, I wish a person could hand me. I would love to. I'm not even gonna say a person could hand me. I would love to be able to work my ass off and receive a bonus of $5,000, $6,000. I think that's the way you stimulate an economy, is to give those that want to help. I pray, yo, you wanna help out? You want an individual with these type of ideas to get on top? Go buy this a bunch of times, and then I'll become part of the elite, or my team will become the part of the elite. And I promise we will.
You shelling out bonuses?
I'm shelling out whatever, bro, because it ain't about me.
It's not about you.
Like, it ain't about me.
The greats are good.
That's never been my energy. And I think business, and in the topic that we're talking about now, how have we allowed business to cloud death? How do you put business and death together and be like, well, I don't know what you're gonna do? Like, that is crazy to me.
I think because, like you said this in an earlier podcast, I don't know if it was an earlier podcast or earlier conversation, but you said there's a certain amount of death that they're okay with on the business side.
Boy, yes, that's a firm belief that I have. And look at COVID. Look at COVID.
I think we're having a conversation about COVID, and you.
Yeah, I don't want to say
COVID
too loud. Please don't flag us. We're just trying to grow. Please, don't flag us for saying
COVID. There's a certain amount of death that they're okay with.
But there is. How can you say that there is not? Look at their response. They can't even get a second stimulus check together.
This is when this is how you know that businesses just, let's be real, they don't care. Because when you do lose a loved one, they give you a set number of days to grieve. They give you a certain amount of bereavement time. Like,
go ahead.
Like, when I lost my big mama, I was like, yo, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, you get 3 bereavement days.
3? You get 3, bro?
I've been knowing this has been my, it's been my big mom. I'm 32 for 32 years.
Facts.
I didn't have the opportunity to grow up with my other grandparents. One was because 2 of them lived in Mississippi, and I was young when they passed anyway. Mm-hmm. And one of them passed before I was born. Yeah. So that's my only grandparent. And you said you're gonna be 3 days to bereave my big mama. Mm-hmm. Ain't no way you trying to tell me it's only gonna take me 3 days to get over the death of my big mama. Maybe it might.
In a what world? Maybe Magic Land,
In Moneyland is like, yo, we can only afford you not to be here for 3 days. Or we can only afford to pay you for not being here for 3 days. So really, you can take off as much as you want, as long as we're not paying you for it.
Sure.
And that's it's mind blowing. And like I said,
I want to tie it all back together. All the things that I talked about and the thing that you just mentioned. How can I talk to a person that has nothing and tell them life insurance is important? Like, how do you bring that to them? I'm going to tell you that you can't and that you need a system change in order to provide those types of things. The pro in me would say, yo, we're individuals and you have to figure it out. That's the harsh reality. They don't care about you. They're not about to start. You got to figure it out on your own. These are the facts. And I'm sorry. I really am. I'm sorry that this is the society that we're living in, and that's okay.
I got a question. Could that life insurance possibly change the lives of the one you leave it to?
Depends on the amount. Now we're talking about a lot of different other stuff.
I was like, could that be the spark for almost an intergenerational wealth that we speak of?
Sure. So it could be if it's given to the right pro.
I would say, so that's you asked, how could you tell somebody that? That's it right there. So now my mindset is like, okay, well, I'm struggling to feed my kids now, but when I go, I got a $100,000 policy. I'm gonna tell them, hey, listen, don't worry, I don't need no expensive funeral. Throw me somewhere and keep the party going.
Facts. That's I'm gonna say it on the Done Podcast too. I'm good. Just
put me in the box, put me in the ground.
Yeah, do facts. Your thing. Keep my joint cost effective and efficient.
If you know me, that's the vibes. Like shed your tears. I'm not mad at you being sad because I'm dope.
Yeah,
you should be sad, but you gonna get some bread from me leaving here.
Facts.
The way you honor me is do the right thing with that bread.
That's brilliant, and I will 100% agree with that sentiment. I think that is a deplorable concept that my loved one has to die in order for our community to be elevated. While I think it's deplorable, I think it is absolutely accurate and on point.
Well, it is deplorable, but it's like we said this already. We're different. We look at things differently. We feel different about certain things. So death is going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for those and the All Done podcast listeners. Your people's gonna die.
Yeah, people's gonna die, and it's gonna happen. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be sad.
Yeah.
But as we said a few minutes ago, hey, sometimes you got to remove the feeling after the fact because you're gonna continue to live. Like I said, I talked about my aunt passing. Well, she passed and she had stuff in order. She has a house that's fully paid for. And now the issue with the house is a whole nother conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, well, give me the house. Like, y'all don't know what y'all want to do. Y'all trying to figure it out because she left it to another aunt and uncle, and that's a whole. Well, you don't want to move it. Give me the house. It's paid for.
Yeah.
So business sense, that makes sense. I don't have to pay a rent or a mortgage because the house is paid for. Sure. Give it to me. My aunt says, oh, well, I'm still living here and I got to pay my rent here. No, you don't. Move into the house that's paid for. That makes sense to me, business. Well, she passed in the house. Open the window. Let the spirit out. You good.
Come on, you bugging.
Now I'm bugging.
You bugging.
Now I'm bugging.
Yo, we gotta wrap this thing. I think it's a great conversation.
I'm not bugging, but it's definitely a great conversation. And I'll get some texts and some calls, and that's cool. Like, I expect it.
That's what it is.
I've explained myself before. I've explained myself.
People hit me all the time after the All Done podcast, like, yeah, you probably, but I wanna. It ain't about me.
Charlie Murphy was a habitual line stepper. I mean, Rick James was a habitual line stepper, and that's what we do. But that's why we're here to stimulate your thoughts and blah blah.
Yeah, let's talk about it. And I think that's our point. The whole All Done podcast format concept. Yeah, let's talk about it. Whatever. If you hear something that you don't like, if you know us, hit my phone. It's open.
Inbox me out.
Yeah, hit Fat Boy too. Like, hit my guy Mike, and it's love.
It'll never be anger. It'll never come from anger. I'll talk to you about it. I might not retract what I said.
Yeah, no.
I might explain further what I meant.
That's rare. Yeah, let's search for the clarity and we'll get there together. But yeah, let's wrap this thing. Let's talk about, to wrap it, give me a solution for we know that it's a problem in all communities, not even just the Black community, but it's a problem in all communities, is that people, because I think a lot of a very large
it's a class issue, yeah.
It is.
We're going to turn into a class issue.
And so how do we fix it? Give me a solution.
How do we fix it? You know what? I don't have a different answer other than the answer we've been given. We've been giving. You feel me? Like, grind, be a pro to get your family out of that position where they have to worry about it.
Sure.
You feel me? As far as the will goes, that's important, because if you do grind and get to that spot where you got that bread, they don't have to worry. Well, you don't need people fighting over what's going to happen with anything you have after you go. So that's the obvious solution we've been talked about. But even if you can't get it is important. It is important to make sure your family taken care of once you're gone. If that's through the minimum payment a month, and it's unfortunate that it may happen, and they may say you didn't meet your insurance policy didn't mature enough, whatever. But at least set a plan in place for your family to be taken care of when you're gone.
Sure. My solution is.
I can tell when it's going by the throat clear.
My solution is, let's continue to push those that are in power to adjust the system. And in many solutions, right, you watch the All Done podcast, we try to end with solutions a lot of the times. And many times I will put it on the individual. This time I will ask the masses, the people that are busting their ass on a day-to-day, let's continue to hold those entities responsible for our lives. And you give a place your life. What is that worth? Is it worth them kicking in for your life insurance? Are you worth that? Plus your $11.25, right? Are you worth that plus some health insurance, dental, vision, right? Let's continue to hold those people who are above us in the structure of this capitalistic society responsible for taking care of the masses. Because I think when capitalism was born and free market was born, I don't know if we had the thought process that the middle class would be so large. So I would say the solution, long story short, let's continue to hold those at a certain level responsible for contributing and progressive and forward thinking ideas to make sure that the society is truly taking care of us all.
I'm with you on that. So as we wrap up, we wrapped up, I'm gonna say a shade to all the ones we mentioned in this podcast, our loved ones. Of course, we continue to love them. A shade, Keep resting in paradise. Keep watching
My brother
over us.
Debo too. The brother Debo just passed. Yeah, much love to him, man.
Much love,
Definitely,
Shay.
the bully shaped our.
Big in the culture still,
Yeah,
even though he was the bully. But you know,
for
Shay.
sure, for sure.
Mentioned Della. You know, my Aunt Addie, my big mama, Shay. You know, keep repping. Love y'all. But on that note, this podcast is
All done,
all
baby.
done.
See y'all next
We
week.
up out of here.
Don't you go off, don't you go off now. That's right. Don't go off. Yeah. Nah, don't you go off, don't you go off now. Look, hey, yeah, I woke up this morning living my best life. And if it isn't, at least I gave it my best try. I'm just enjoying the moments cause ain't no next time. Tryna slide with my people on the west side. Yeah, moving different than all the rest cause I'm about doing it different, new vision.